welcome back to the Sounds of Stadia Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all of the gaming and Stadia video game news for your listening and viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games. You join myself, Chris, your host for the show, alongside the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
Hello, everyone.
Hello to one and all, newcomers, oldcomers, people who just loiter around in the chat. Welcome. We've got a great show for you all lined up. We're going to be discussing E3's cancellation, some Stadia games that have come, been promised, they've went, they're back. We don't really know. We'll talk about it, but it's definitely a pro-problem to have, some would say. And lots of ratings and other little bits and pieces we pulled together, anniversaries, celebrations, all the sort. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And don't forget, if you are new to the channel, do click like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing content we bring you here on Helix Cloud Games. Just like live streams, Richie, let's plays, first looks. Sometimes we have to cancel our plans due to the nature of the industry that we're reporting in, but we'll get into all that as part of the news. But before we do dive into it all, shout out to our Helix Heroes, the members of our channel. You guys make this happen. You make it all the more easier. We thank you for your patronage and your support. And we have a new member, Richie. Welcome to the Helix Heroes crew. MJ Parks, shout out to you for joining us on youtube.com. You can do that if you wish to by clicking join below. You get access to early content, stickers, badges. You've got a lovely little Premiere controller next to your name now. Exclusive content and side quests up to 6 days early. So thank you, MJ Parks, and the other 50 plus of you who subscribe to us across YouTube, and some still on Patreon. We moved away from Patreon pretty much a year to the day, Richie, almost. And there's some listeners out there who still cling on to Patreon. So by all means, make the switch across if you like.
It's still there if people want to use it.
It is still there. You're right. Yeah. We obviously don't want to just kick people off without telling them, but YouTube is where we centrically navigate. Of course, in podcast services up there in the digital cloud as well. If you want to listen to this show via audio only, if you've got a busy week, you're back out from working from home, you're in the field now, you can listen to us across Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your audio shows. Richie, before we dive into this week, we didn't have a live stream, so just catching up with you. What you've been playing?
I've made a decent dent in Horizon. It's going to be Horizon for the next few weeks. I still think there might be a couple of weeks left of gaming in Horizon for me. Mm-hmm. But I have been playing a bit of FIFA here and there, a bit of Pokemon. Pokemon's become one of the Shining Pearls, being that kind of casual game where I can just pick up for half an hour. In fact, just before we're prepping for the show, I did actually get my 8th badge, so I'm getting close to the end of that.
Oh, still the good old 8 badges, and you're done.
Yeah. Shining Pearl. If you've played Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, you know what it's about.
We do indeed. I've been chipping away, still doing some FIFA. I did check out Bloodstained Ritual of the Night for the first time this past week as well. I did the first kind of, I guess, up to the boss area in that game, which actually pertains to one of our very random stories of the week we'll get into later on the show. It's been an interesting one for me. I've not had as much game time. I've got Lego Star Wars on the way this week. I've barely had enough time to put in Horizon. I need these adult responsibilities to get out the way so I can just knuckle down and do some hard gaming. Loads of other stuff.
I'm going back to work full time starting next week.
Oh,
I've run for the last. If anyone who doesn't know, for the last 2 months, I've basically been working part time because of the way my holiday allowance fell over the last year. So. I actually have to start working a 5-day week again. Poo are you. Yeah, adult things aside, I've had to do. So my past Thursday, I was out for my work's Christmas party, which seems weird saying that now in April. But I went out for my delayed work's Christmas party. I was very rough the next morning. Well, not very rough actually. I wasn't too bad. But I had a 4-hour drive home. I had to do that. I had to deal with some mortgage problems that we're having with the surveys and stuff. It's just adult things to the max. Got home to find out that our flights for our Polish wedding we're going to had problems with that, so we had to deal with it's all fine now. But we had to deal with all that, and when you just think, I'm tired, I'm having to deal with all this stuff. Like, my word. But Richie, before we get into all the gaming news, I did have a little delivery of some Pokemon cards which I've been collecting. Just still in the Pokemon cards.
Still not as much, but every time it's payday, I treat myself to a little pack of something. Back to back. So if you're really down and out, what way to possibly bring you around? You know what? Things have got to look up. Back to back, Richie. You ready for this?
Yeah.
1.
Oh, that's a shiny Blastoise.
2.
It's Shiny Venusaur.
Back to
Has
back.
he got the hat trick?
No.
Oh,
you
don't.
Almost, but you know what? Back to
That's a
back.
shame.
Back to back packets.
Yeah.
I got 2 of those ones, and I was like, you know what? Everything's got to swing around, swings and roundabouts. It's on the upswing, so put a smile on my face. Had to share that. I did not get the final one of the magic trio.
You should have brought 3 packs instead of 2.
I was immediately tempted to jump back on and order more, but I'm trying to.
That's how it gets you, though.
It does, and of course, spending money, video games, enjoyment, hobbies, and stuff. That's what we're all about here. That's what I've been doing. We will get back to some gaming news, of course, for the show. We've got big plans for the channel still lined up, so thank you everyone, of course, for tuning in. Hundreds of you do. You listen on podcast services, you watch along on YouTube, and we can't help but thank you all. We're on the cusp, Richie, of 1,500 subs over on YouTube, so we do appreciate everyone who clicks that bell and they subscribe, so you are, like I say, kept in the loop. But yeah, we're seeing lots of growth. If you're new to the channel, thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging around. If you're one of the old guard who's been here from the beginning, thank you very, very much for just tuning in and listening to us talk about video games and Pokemon cards and adult shit that's going on in our lives. Because, of course, this is episode 132 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Richie, we've got loads of news, so let's not delay. Let's get into it. Let's introduce us to the
super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news.
Now, interesting couple of stories this week, varying, lots of game-related stuff. But we need to kick off with a kind of, guess, the big event, or not kick off, we should say. Story number 1 comes from stateside. E3, the massive digital presence, of course. That Stadia are yet to have any actual presence, we should point out. They've not shown up yet. However, we need to say that E3 is kind of relevant because it's the place we see a lot of game announcements. And every year we tune in, we read the news regarding E3 in the hope that they announce something relating to this cloud gaming platform that we love so much. And it seems to be that E3 has been officially ditched this year. Not only did the digital-only event, which they did last year, where it was a bunch of like online videos and showcases, that's gone. They've cancelled their in-person event as well back in January. So that means the whole E3 for 2022 is no more.
Yeah, like the last few years with E3, they've had, because of COVID reasons, they've cancelled the physical presence, and they just went to digital presence. I'm wondering if they've reviewed it and just went, the digital only thing hasn't been as successful for us. It's not what E3 is about, and if they think what E3 is going forward is that physical convention where people do congregate on wherever it's hosted for that week.
Yeah.
And the digital thing is I mean, Summer Games Fest is still on.
We should kind of caveat that with,
it's like you're kind of double dipping.
Yeah, Jeff Keighley quickly came out and said, like, oh no, Summer Games Fest is very much going ahead.
Yeah.
And he's kind of in a similar position. He just has a different energy having the Game Awards under his belt as well. I think he just either he has it more together.
It feels a bit less corporate, and it's got like it's designed to be this overarching thing that can like any developer who wants to put a press conference on can just be part of Summer Games Fest.
Yeah,
E3 it was always a bit more formal. You had the keynote presentations across 3 days. I think it's probably that they've probably looked at it and go, you know what, we don't need a digital presence. Why are we spending all this money to just have this digital only presence for a third year running when it just isn't probably not worth it? They probably don't make any money on it.
Well, that's the interesting thing with E3, because as you said, it's so corporate. E3 ask for money from the developers and publishers. Like, they go to Ubisoft and go, you pay us for this presence on stage, and Ubisoft,
which is fine
and everyone else.
It's fine when you're at a convention. You go, you know what? There's a limited amount of space. You want a booth. This is how much it's going to cost you. But when it's a digital thing that you're just kind of putting a branding over, it's oh, you have to pay us to be part of this thing. It's like,
why?
Or we could just do it ourselves and not pay you.
And that's the kind of the world with lockdown. It's the acceptance of digital showcases and a digital presence has been ramped up tenfold, where people are perfectly happy tuning into a Ubisoft Forward here, or a PlayStation State of Play here, or a Nintendo Direct, because like you said, they're watching it. And I think you're completely right in saying Jeff Keighley's approach with Summer Games Fest, it's almost like a watch along. He doesn't really do much. He just says, like, these are the dates, this is the calendar. we'll have stuff happening in between, but he almost gives it like a blanket approach to just organising it, I guess.
He just kind of helps knit all these different digital events together rather than being so isolated on their own.
Yeah.
I hope Summer Games Fest this year is a bit more condensed in terms of time, because last year it seemed to go on for like 6 months.
Well, we had was it last year we had IGN Summer of Games at the same time, and then everyone started.
Yeah.
Everyone was testing the water for what a digital world looked like, and I'm hoping you're right in saying that this year he can almost like pull those strings a bit tighter.
Yeah, I think Jeff Keighley probably has the contacts to do it. So even things like IGN Summer of Games could fall under the umbrella of Summer Games Fest, and they're just going, you know what, guys, let's just condense this into a month. We're just going to Summer Games Fest. Let's say it's just going to be June.
Yeah, well, that's what was great with the physical E3s. They all got the big players all got a stage presence back to back days. Yeah, that was the kind of main showcase for the day. But stuff was going on in other areas of the conference rooms. But with it being virtual, like you said, the great thing, I think Jeff kicks things off with his kind of Summer Games Fest opening night live thing, and then everyone just slots in behind that, which you need someone to organise that for it to work, who isn't charging money.
What we might actually see is E3 going back to its roots a bit, where it was originally an industry event, then it became a bit more of a consumer event, and you hear people occasionally in the industry and on podcasts saying how they actually kind of preferred the old E3 before it was this like massively thing open to the public in such a broad way. Yeah. Maybe they're going, you know what, we're going to retool it. It is going to be an industry event, so it's going to be developers, publishers, press, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, certainly.
There might be a public focus, a consumer presence, but that's what Summer Games Fest is more of. So it'll be interesting.
Big question
next
though,
year.
I guess, is do you think it'll ever be back? Because we know the ESA have loads of financial problems. Like they rely on E3 to bring the money in, and this is the third year in a row now they're not having it their way. And I think the longer time goes on,
that's why I think they will need it to come back. And I think next year it probably will come back, because I think by this, I mean the UK has already kind of give up on COVID legislation. I think by next year most of the countries will as well. So I think we might see E3 return next year in its physical form, which it might not be ever as big as it was. I don't think it is. I think players like Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo barely have a foothold there anymore, to be honest. No. Like Nintendo just do a direct. They have for the last few years.
Well, yeah,
Microsoft do their own thing over the road, and Sony just went, nah, I can't be bothered.
Yeah, well, that's it. Microsoft, they own the theater over the road. I think it's actually called like the Microsoft Theater or something. So why would you? But then again, in a globalized market, why is it just in one country in one location every summer? Like you don't need that. But like we have games come over in Europe, but you don't need it because of the internet.
I mean,
YouTube.
If E3 is just going to be, it's going to ditch like the physical presence for the consumer side. So you got the physical presence for the industry, and they'll still do like the game trailers and reveals and stuff, the stage presence and stuff, and that will be still published live, probably in conjunction with Summer Games Fest. That might be the nice balance that they need to find. It might not be the most profitable way to do it, but it's kind of them recarving out what made E3 important to the gaming industry.
Yeah, it's kind of like a better approach for me is just embrace the Comic-Con nature of it and just be like, yeah.
So you think they should go the more full? This is going to be a full consumer event,
because I don't think businesses really lose anything by not being there. So if you're losing your key source of income,
I don't know. I think there's probably a lot of networking that can happen at these conventions.
But is that not all virtual now?
Not necessarily. Like there's something to be said. I work in an industry where conventions are important. We send people out to big conventions every year, and there's something to be said for like walking the floor of these halls and you see something that's interesting, you end up talking to the people, and that starts a dialogue. Then it ends up you start working on projects together, and a partnership can blossom from there. That sort of thing can just start from literally just walking the floor and talking to people. Yeah, but I think that is diluted when there's 1 million consumers there. Yeah. Because if the hall is absolutely packed out by people who just
want a free tote bag and a lanyard,
even just nice things, just like saying like thanking the developers for the hard work, like in a purely just straight up positive manner,
Mm-hmm.
it probably does get in the way of that business to business interaction.
Yeah, that's very true. We've said a few times on this show, in an alternate world, universe, how Stadia has been impacted by... We've done a whole SideQuest on it about COVID impacting its launch, and you're right, events like this, GDC, not being in person, it would be interesting to see a world in which Stadia was able to make these relationships and connections face to face, and how much it may have actually hampered development time and games coming across. And like you said, it could have just been a passing thing, like John Justice, Phil Harrison, someone, Jade Raymond from back in the day, just walking the show floor going, hey, indie developer, have you thought about Google Stadia as an option to port to? We've got all these great new tools, we're doing loads of incentives, let's shake a hand, there's our card, grab a drink later on at the bar or something. And because of the lack of these events, then nothing's came of it. If you don't have their email or their points of contact,
it makes, I think as well, because it's people meeting each other, is a bit more social. You probably get to know some of the people in the industry a bit more. So you not as much as an outsider as Google Stadia seems to be at times. And I think if you know someone, you're probably more likely to work with them in a lot of ways, or you're more likely to just, you know what, I met you at E3. You seem pretty cool. You seem to have working on some cool stuff. Yes, I will give you my time. I'll hear your pitch.
Yeah.
It can be that sometimes that little thing that gets your foot in the door.
Yeah.
But
really
for me, in an ideal situation, I'd almost like E3 to be two different events.
Yeah.
Because I think it's almost like two events in one. You got the industry event and you got the consumer event. I really like the idea of a massive consumer focused event that if the general public can go to, and you can meet the developers, you can see new games and stuff. It could even happen alongside E3, but then a industry specific event for developers, press, publishers, all them sort of people, the people actually involved in making and reporting on it.
Yeah.
So you almost have these two separate things.
Yeah.
So you get one event is like servicing like the industry, the other is servicing the consumers.
Yeah. Well, something definitely needs to change, because the way it's looking is not so great. Like we said, with the big boys pulling out, it seems to be quite problematic for them right now. But we'll skip this year. It does lead me to the question, Richie, again, as we do enter the month of April. Spring is officially upon us. The clocks are forward. It's lighter on the night. Do you think we'll see a Stadia Connect this year at all?
I'm not optimistic, to be honest. After, if you think back to last week's SideQuest, we basically did a 40-minute show on what games aren't coming to Google Stadia.
That is true.
It doesn't lend a lot of content to Connect, unfortunately.
So I'll back that up with a follow-up question. Do you think they'll ever acknowledge not doing Connects ever again? Like, will anyone actually say we've pivoted towards a different approach, we'll no longer be doing Connects, or do we just sit forever expecting them at one point to say, there's a Connect this Friday?
I think in this weird state where they have pivoted, they're not going chasing after the big AAA titles. They don't probably have their sights set on catching up with Microsoft and Sony anymore. They're trying to find their own niche differently, but they can't say too much because they're probably worried by saying too much. What regular Stadia users around might just jump ship. If they go, we're not going to spend any money in a very public way, like a Connect or something. We're not going to pay the money to get AAAs. Then anyone who's interested in AAAs is going, well, I might as well buy a PlayStation or Xbox now because the games I'm hoping are coming aren't going to come.
Yeah.
So they're in that weird situation.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. I've listened to a few. I mean, we'll talk about it on SideQuest, but with all the new PlayStation news this last week, I've listened to so many gaming podcasts discussing the price barrier and the costing of games now, and going back to that age-old question of like inflation and a week game. It's festive April's passed. Everything in the UK has gone up in price. God knows what people's bills are going to be like. And then the solution is right in front of us in cloud gaming that we're looking at to save costing on buying a console. And all these people I'm listening to talk about PlayStation and the costings involved, it's because you just haven't really embraced the new world of video games yet. But an E3 clearly haven't either. So
I think there might be a side quest in exploring that, to be honest.
That probably it. There's a side quest in everything.
Oh yeah.
In-
Occasionally we have these conversations. That's a good idea for
Actually,
sure.
put a pin in that. Now. Put a pin in that. But of course, if you out there are listening, viewing, and you have questions or topics that you would like to write in with for this show, SideQuest, or even just something for this channel specifically, we have a whole thread within our Discord server dedicated to that. So join us. The link's in the description below. Click join, jump in, chat to myself, Richie, like-minded gamers, Stadia players, cloud gamers out there across all consoles. In fact, discussing video games. It's right there to join. If you feel so inclined, all of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people out there listening, viewing, watching along. Right, Richie, story number 2. We seem to be having some delivery problems for our pro games this month. Specifically when we're delivering moons. Celestial bodies.
I mean, it's quite big. It's quite difficult to deliver to someone. Like, I think even like FedEx or UPS or anyone would have difficulty with this one.
Definitely. It would appear, ladies and gentlemen, for story number 2, that a combination of Stadia, Wired Productions, and the developers, Neoken, seem to have cancelled their Amazon Prime subscription or something, because Deliver Us the Moon, which was supposed to be launching April 1st as part of your pro game claimable library, has been delayed. I read direct from a tweet from publishers Wired Productions. Attention all astronauts. Sadly, tomorrow's launch of Deliver Us the Moon on Google Stadia has been delayed. Sad emoji. We'll update you as soon as a new launch date has been arranged. Thank you for your patience. Stand by, Stadians. And this is a first. I think this has happened. Now, we go back. We used to have a segment on the show. I can't even remember what it was called now, where it was like, what Stadia done this week, or what was it called?
I can't remember.
It was like something that could only happen on Stadia, but it had like kind of like a negative twist to it. So I think we slowly just stopped using it, or they stopped doing daft things or falling foul of things like this. But
we never formally like discontinued the segment. We just didn't.
Just they stopped doing daft funny things you got to laugh at. It'll be in there. Someone out there will know it. But disappointing news. 100%, Richie. You and me were ready to take to the moon this Friday. We changed our live stream date to Friday to accommodate for the launch of the pro games, and it didn't arrive. And there's a few things, obviously. I think you and me and probably loads of our viewers and listeners will agree that if there's a problem with the game, we'd rather you delay it and get a fix. Undoubtedly. Yeah. It's the right thing to do.
Every time there's a delay, I say the same thing. I'm happy to wait for the game to be ready for us to play.
Exactly. However, Richie.
Not when we've got content planned.
No, not even that. Less than 24 hours before it launched. Now, we don't know the reasons why. They've not explicitly give any things like whether it's a massive game-breaking bug. I know the Avengers this week is having problems with... apparently, there's a glitch on the PlayStation 5 version of Avengers, Richie, where the only way to remedy it is literally delete your game file save, which doesn't remedy it. That just causes another problem that you've lost all your progress. So, I digress.
Yeah, that's not a fix.
Yeah, it's not a fix. If that was a problem, again, take your time, fix it, get it running. However, you can't help but feel a bit disheartened that this game... This tweet, by the way, from the publishers went out at 7:29 p.m. on March 31st. Literally less than 24 hours before you should have been playing this game on the platform.
Yeah. I have no idea what could have happened. Do we know where these developers are based? Because if they're UK based, that means they've been up, they're stayed at work late, trying to probably solve whatever problem is unexpectedly turned up, and they've got to a point at like 7:30 where the time went, we can't fix this today.
We can't do it. Don't think there's anything I can see on the website necessarily. I think they're English based, I would guess, just from looking at the website and their Twitter account. Indie video games publishing label, lover of KFC. So yeah. Sounds about right, but without delving too much into that, of course, it's just a bit disappointing. And I think it's emphasised by the fact that a lot of people across socials were caught foul of World War Z Aftermath also not being there day one, and add that into the fact that it's also April Fool's Day. It just makes for like a storm of unfortunate events.
I saw a lot on social media about World War Z Aftermath. It's like, where is it's not coming? It's like, it's not meant to. That was one that is not planned, wasn't planned for the first. That was planned for the end of the first week, which I'm assuming. Well, the end of the first week, which technically was the first, but I think they mean next week. This week, that when you're listening to it, I expect that game by Friday.
Yeah, so that's the issue was kind of capitulated in on itself because of arguably the two as big titles as well for the month of Pro, and neither of them have hit the date. Now, we did try and stress last week when we went through the Pro games, it did say within the first weeks of April. So I personally wasn't expecting it Friday, but then we were prepared to do a Deliver Us the Moon stream, so that obviously pulled the rug out from under that stream. However, if you're a gamer out there, you've subscribed to Pro, that left you with a very lackluster list of things to check out on Friday. You've got your point and click adventure game, which we all know our feelings on that one, don't we? And then what was the other? And then Chicken Police, Paint It Red. Oh, I guess you had Monstrum Nox if JRPGs are up your street. So you've got one big title there, I guess.
And Chicken Police is probably I expect to be a really fun game. Mm-hmm. Which is why we were tempted to actually pivot to Chicken Police, but then work reasons you couldn't make it back in time, and I decided, well, I don't want to play that game on stream without you because I think that's a game that would do well from both of us being there.
Yeah, I agree. And again, adult things aside, I'd had like 4 hours sleep as well, so I
played Horizon instead.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I contemplated playing Horizon and then just fell asleep. Yeah. And just didn't do anything. So, apologies anyone who's expecting a live stream, but sometimes life does get in the way, and evidently something can get in the way with Deliver Us the Moon being delayed. So now the kind of follow-up to all this is they've said on the tweet, we'll update you as soon as a new launch date has been arranged. I'm hoping it's not long. Obviously, if they don't know how long it'll take to fix, but this is going to get worse the more days/weeks pass. Like if we start heading into May and it's not there, like at what point do?
Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for the developers on this one because it's like it's an 11th hour thing crisis that's happened to them. So they were probably scrambling to try and get it fixed in time for launch. Realize, and this is all assumption by the way. Realize it's not going to be possible, that they're going to need more time. But at the time of recording, there's been no more announcements. They might. I mean, we're recording this on Saturday. They might be working all weekend to try and fix it, to try and get it out on Monday, for all we know. But it might be something that's even more fundamentally problematic. That's only kind of emerged at the literally last minute. So it's really just we'll know when we know. We'll
give them the benefit of the doubt on this one, of course.
Yeah.
If anything, it does just mean, Richie, I'm pretty sure they just need to make up for it by bringing us Deliver Us Mars, their new game that they're promoting all over socials right now. It seems to be a fair trade-off. You missed your launch date for this game, so in return, you've got to get that Deliver Us Mars game out. That seems about a fair deal.
And they are UK based. They're from Watford.
Watford. Interesting. Just lost to Liverpool today. But we digress. Moving on, though, through the video games list, we did have some great news come out of Team 17 this week. So we reported in previous weeks that Team 17, publishers of great games that we can't wait to play, such as Overcooked and Golf with Friends, they actually tweeted out confirming another game, whether it was intentional or not, Richie. But Team 17 have confirmed that Worms WMD is coming to Stadia. In a tweet reply, when someone inquired about should they go for Google Stadia or Amazon Luna, so just someone curiously on Twitter asking about what platform should I pick up, and they replied with, "We're bringing Overcooked, All You Can Eat, Golf with Friends, and Worms WMD to Google Stadia very soon." So let the cat out of the bag.
Finally getting Worm game.
Not Google Worm game that we were expecting. But yes, WMD Worms, I presume it's weapons of mass destruction, but they don't want to plaster that all over the marketing, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Either way, it's an older title. Came out back in 2016, but I don't think the Worms games are traditionally known for cutting-edge, sharp graphics and super fast gameplay. It's not really changed since its inception. It's just changed its art style.
And this isn't one of the weird spin-offs where they're trying to make Worms a first-person
Grand
shooter
Theft
battle
Auto
royale
clone.
or something weird, a Grand Theft Auto clone. Yeah, this is a proper 2D turn-based Worms game.
Good. With
And I,
online.
for one, can't wait because Worms is fun.
It is.
It's just straight up fun.
My fun story about Worms is I rented, it might have even been the original on the Sega Mega Drive from back in the day. It was Global Video, it was called in the UK. And rented it for the weekend along with probably another Sega game. Myself and my brother played it, and we couldn't get past the menu screen. I don't know whether it was a problem with the cartridge or the controller, but when it says press to start, nothing would work, nothing would happen, and then it would loop into the trailer, like the trailer. You know, like the opening, the games in the past. If you used to leave them on the home screen, they'd play like a couple of clips of a video game, or they'd do a trial game with AI only. For some reason.
I think that's just. I think it's effectively the same idea as a screensaver. It's to stop burning.
Yeah, possibly. It used to do that, and we had it all weekend. Couldn't get the game started, and then we took it back. So I rented it for a whole weekend, and we never actually played it. But then I went on to have many iterations of the franchise on PlayStation and such. But you're completely right. I think Worms is one of them. It's just a classic video game franchise that I think it'll always be around in some shape or form for decades and decades to come. Never going to hit the quite heights of like Fortnite, GTA, Call of Duty, but there's always space for it in the market.
Worms had its heyday in the late 90s. I think Worms Armageddon was probably the pinnacle of the franchise.
That's my most enjoyed one, yeah.
And I think every now and again, what will probably happen, maybe once every like 4 or 5 years, they'll just bring out a new Worms game that kind of reinvents it slightly, but basically just gives a slight update to the format and go, hey guys, here's more Worms. You like Worms, right? Yeah. And we go, yeah, we do. Yeah. Cheers.
What makes me chuckle still to this day is if you're out somewhere, I'm sure, I don't know who it is, but someone I either know or I work with or have been around has the Worms incoming as like their notification tone. Yeah. And every time I hear that go off, it just brings a little smile to my face. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a thing.
And it reminds you back to times when the indignity of getting beaten by someone using prod.
Prod, a holy hand grenade, a granny bomb, sending it wrong. Oh, hello dear, bang, gone.
Super sheep, concrete donkeys,
the moment you realise all the squad names are based after like the Beatles are there. You've got all like the famous groups, bands. Make your own, of course. Make your own.
Or that one guy who just makes loads of girders.
Girder guy. But no, we'll definitely love it. It's up to 8 player, we believe. So hopefully online players going to come into account with that. And there's definitely, like you said, Richie, definitely a stream in there somewhere for our channel.
Yeah.
So yes. But actually, speaking of the last few stories, while we've got it here, April's Fool's Day. I mentioned it in the Deliver Us the Moon story, but April's Fool's been and gone. We didn't divulge in it this year. I think in the past Tom threw out a Jedi Fallen Order. It must have been like before it was even on the platform. He did a Jedi Fallen Order mock-up, but I don't think for channels, business and stuff, sometimes it's not worth the effort for the potential upset. Like we could easily have mocked up a joke Stadia thing. I could have done some artwork, a graphic that certain games were coming, a new colour controller. Like, there was plenty we could have done. I think it's safer to not get anyone's hopes up falsely.
Yeah, I think
on the day of
to do April Fools properly, you kind of have to have people start watching a video and going, "Is this for real?" and then kind of get it by the end of the video. And I think it's a skill, takes a lot of effort. There's some cool stuff actually that April Fools that I was like, that would actually be awesome. I think Elgato of April Fools at Camlink Retro, like that would be awesome.
With the SCART gear on the back,
like your red, yellow, white fellas. That would, I think, generally be an awesome thing. Like,
I mean, if you're streaming older games, right? Like if you've got a PlayStation 1 sat there and you want to stream that, then you either need a HDMI converter or use this fake Camlink Retro.
I think Corsair made a 1-key keyboard. It's just the F key so you can pay respects.
I do like that one. I did see Among Us did the horse mode where they basically just stretched out the character into like a centaur almost. That one made me chuckle. But I always enjoy having a look around just to see what's there, especially in the video gaming world, because a lot of video game companies have like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke with either like DLC or something that wasn't announced. PUBG actually has got one that's it, actually we discussed this pre-show, but if you do it for real, it's no longer a prank, right?
Yeah, even if it's just like a limited time thing, like Among Us, they did actually put for one day only a horse mode into the game. That's not then an April Fool, because you're not fooling anyone. Just going, hey guys, play Among Us. You can be a horse for a day.
Yeah, it's same as the PUBG. There's a Monster Chicken Royale mode, which they've called it, where there's a giant chicken that breathes fire appears on the Karakin map. And I'm guessing you can shoot it and stuff, but that's actually live now to play. Anyone out there who's a PUBG fan, April 1st through to April 11th. So you've got about another week to verse this giant. So winner chicken dinner, like on a kaiju level, Godzilla Rampage style.
Yeah, I'd say the Corsair one, even though they did actually make a keyboard, they did make a physical thing. I would say that counts because it's such a ridiculous idea.
It's
and
so
because
crazy.
they made it, it's like people like and other like media outlets covered it as they would like any keyboard release. It's like, is it real? It's got enough like to put doubt into people's mind. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think the final one that I saw was Goat Simulator, the musical motion picture, directed by Steve-O from Jackass.
I think that should just happen, to be honest. It'd be stupid, ridiculous, and hilarious.
It's almost ridiculous enough for it to become a thing, like willed into existence just by all you need is a daft if you stuck Goat Simulator the movie on Netflix's like homepage, people would watch it. Like there's a lot of shit on Netflix, and I'd be curious. It could be that. It could almost be that bad. It's good levels of terrible TV.
Almost like a Jackass movie style thing,
with goats.
Only a musical centered around goats.
It could.
I think it should be a thing.
It might well be. It might well be. On the other hand, April Fools. Did you see? I know loads of people in our Discord chat were talking about the Dyson face mask.
Yeah,
or the headphones / face mask that looked like some kind of Darth Vader version 1.0 mock-up.
Yeah. It's like a headphones that has an air purifier, so it purifies the air around your face. It's like
does not fresh air do that? Like is that not what you want? You want to be breathing. Either way, we digress. April Fools being and gone. Do let us know in the comments if anything caught you out this April 1st. That was real. I would actually be really curious to know if there was any people out there who genuinely thought like the Deliver Us the Moon news, or after World War Z Aftermath not being there was an April Fool. And thinking, it'll be there later on. You crazy people over at Stadia or Wired Productions. It's like I see you trying to pull our leg, and then when it didn't actually come later in the evening, like, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, the World War Z Aftermath is like it was literally in the blog post that it won't beat it the first day. So
that is true.
Yeah.
But speaking of weird, trippy things that throw people up, Richie, next story of the week. We're going to take two games that are on Stadia. Child of Light, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Share a lot of similarities in terms of like platforming DNA. However, I would not expect them to ever do a crossover. Different production companies, different developers. And yet here we are, Richie, discussing essentially Child of the Bloodstained, should we call this? Where do you want to go with it? Ritual of the Light? Something like that. They're combining the two, and I'll read from the blog. Aurora lost her way and awoke in a strange, dangerous new land, armed with the sword of Matildis and accompanied by her loyal Angelicus. That's a terrible word. She must find a way to escape. Despite the dire situation, Aurora is not alone. Johannes is on hand to help her increase her power by transmuting items found in chests throughout the game. Basically, they're taking the character from Child of Light and dropping her into Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Yeah.
How did this come about? It's cool. It's shit.
I have no idea. It's a weird crossover because I mean, unless there's going to be a Child of Light 2 coming soon, and they're just like
because it's an old game
starting to try and breathe a little bit more life back in the IP because I think it was maybe 2016 or something in the game.
Yeah. So
it's not a new game. I mean, you should play it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's always on sale as well. There's always a Ubisoft sale out there somewhere where you can pick it up for
even
like £5.
If it's not on sale, it's not that expensive. It's just worth playing. But it's like I have no idea how this came about. Like, I'm glad it exists.
Yeah,
I'm probably not going to play it, but I'm glad it's there.
Are you more inclined to play? Obviously, Bloodstained was a pro game, so you do own it. Would you be more inclined to play it as the character from Child of Light, or is it Aura?
I don't know. Aurora. I don't know. I think if I was wanting to play Bloodstained, I tend to like any sort of game. I tend to like try and play in vanilla mode, kind of at the start.
Yeah.
And then maybe if it's like a game where I go back to play, that's when I'll start playing around a bit more. Like when I come to a Pokemon game, I tend to just like, I'm not going to go to my bank full of like literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Pokemon I've caught over the years. I'm just going to start completely clean my first playthrough and only use Pokemon in that game.
Yeah.
But when I go back and play, I'll go to my bank. Oh, I haven't played with this guy for a while. Get him in my team.
Yeah. It's
so maybe on like a second playthrough I'd do it, but it's unlikely.
Okay. Yeah, as I mentioned, I played the fest up to the fest boss fight and stuff using the Rizukishi, because these type of games, Child of Light and Bloodstained, they're kind of perfect for your mobile game. They're not too like insane. There's not much in terms of like other than going left, right, up, down, attack, block like that. There's not. You don't really need to use the triggers that much, which I always think suffer a little bit on the Rizukishi. Or any kind of handheld gaming, I guess. But Bloodstained runs fine. I really enjoyed what I did play of it. Not my type of game traditionally, but it's interesting to see these things coming about. And again, something like this could have came from GDC, a face-to-face event where devs are just going, oh, I really love playing Child of Light. It's one of my favourite games from yesteryear. And the Bloodstained guys going, oh, well, actually, we're thinking of doing some DLC. Any chance? And then they get talking and it gets made.
And it's free DLC as well.
So
which makes it put that even weirder twist on it. To be honest, like, so what's
the point?
I don't know.
Who is it for? Who is it financially for?
I'm not sure whether this is like, does it actually change up how the game plays? Does Aurora have her own moveset, or is it just purely cosmetic?
They say in the description, they say, in addition to her sword, Aurora begins her adventure with the help of a trusted friend. Acts on her own. She can temporarily slow down enemies or heal Aura with a flash of light. So it sounds like there is like unique, specific.
It is like she seems to be a full-on character because Igniculus in the game you can control him separate to Aurora and actually use his powers to actually heal and stuff. I have a live stream. I did a live stream on it, so if you want to know more about Child of Light, go check it out.
Definitely.
But yeah,
interesting. Again, video games are cool. It's like crossovers are definitely the flavor of the decade, I guess, in terms of movies. Everyone loves a good crossover or an extended universe. Why not with video games? Let's see it. Throw Sonic the Hedgehog in there while you're at it, because he's got a movie. We actually need to go see that. It's soon. It's the sequel's out, and apparently it's actually better than the first from early reviews that I've read.
All right. I mean, I didn't love the first film, but I did want to see the second one anyway.
Just the movie poster alone should be enough to entice you to the cinema, Richie. Either that or Batman. I've still not seen Batman. But moving on, things that may be coming to Stadia. Now, we've had success in the past with video games, either through Kickstarter or just the community, the wonderful people out there pulling together and speaking, contacting, tweeting developers and saying, look, consider Stadia. There's a great community here, and they've got loads of incentives. Go check out stadia.dev. I did it this week again. There's a PlayStation podcast I listen to, and every few months, I guess, whenever there's new news around the dev team, so specifically with the Google for Games changes, I messaged them on the Patreon and said, like, look, check out stadia.dev if you're remotely curious. Because I think the game would run great on the platform, and we're always looking for more games, so just do it. And meanwhile, lovely people over on the Twitter world have looked at the upcoming title Projekt Z, or Z, I guess, if you're... do I say Z or Z? Z. I don't think.
I mean, Z's the correct way because it's English.
Oh, throwing it out there.
Sorry, shots fired there.
To be fair...
I actually used Z earlier in the show as well, so I've used both Z and Z.
So he just can't be trusted. To be fair, they've also spelled project with a K. So it might be Polish, it might be CD Projekt Red style. Either way, we digress. Projekt Z for zombie? Z? Yombi. Oh, I'm getting caught up on a letter. Anyway, they've tweeted out saying, "Hey survivors, it's 24 hours since the devlog got released. Did you notice our Kickstarter launches on the 29th of April for this game?" And somebody chased it up. I've lost the tweet now. Where am I at? They're also considering cloud gaming, thanks to loads of people in the community messaging them saying, "Is this game coming Stadia? We'd love to see it on Stadia. Stadia is a great platform. Check out this." And again, being really useful, just pointing them in the right direction. Because a lot of these indie developers, they are usually teams consisting of 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
And it's been handed over to Kickstarter, and they've now included Stadia, GeForce Now, Luna as part of the Kickstarter campaign. Now, how do you feel about these Kickstarter things? Because obviously we've seen success with Sky Climbers. That was probably the major one, but they didn't go through Kickstarter specifically for Stadia. They got in touch through the Indie Makers program.
So we should say at the time of writing, at the time of recording, sorry, not writing, we don't know what the Kickstarter will contain. The different tiers and stuff haven't been released yet. For the Kickstarter, so we don't know whether this is just a Kickstarter for the port to Stadia, or is this just a Kickstarter for the game in general, or what that's going to look like. So it's really hard to comment because
it's literally
we don't have the critical information.
As it stands, it's literally upcoming project.
I'm too much of a cynic and a skeptic to really back anything on Kickstarter. I'm glad when I hear a Kickstarter story go well for the developers, that they've hit the project the funds that they needed, that they've got the backing they're after, and then they've delivered. That's a fantastic thing. But I think for every one success story, there's probably thousands where it just hasn't come off. So I'm one who I just don't invest in any Kickstarters.
I'm the same. The only one I've ever really considered it was to rebuild a like-for-like design of Minas Tirith from Lord of the Rings, where you could visit it, live, rent a room, a hotel, go to the top of the tower in quarry. I can't remember what country they were going to do it in, but I was like, oh, that would be so cool. I want to be on that. But evidently, no, that's a foolish idea.
I mean, the Kickstarter officially launches on April the 29th. So I think this is a case of we'll just touch back in on the story next month when we have the full info. Yeah. And kind of we can break it down then.
Yeah, indeed. Tell you what, I would like to see. Have you seen Choo Choo Charles?
Yeah.
That horror game. That's not confirmed for Stadia, but I'd love people to just go tweet at that guy, because that's just one dev doing. I think he's doing it in Unreal. I keep checking out his YouTube channel because it's got loads of behind the scenes clips of how he made Charles into a train with spider legs, and now he's working on the AI, and he's asking for his viewers to find ideas about what to call the villains and the different cults on the island. And
I do like when these smaller devs do these dev blogs. So but because it gets to show you a bit of the side of the industry that you don't really see as a consumer, how this thing that you love, these projects that you love, they're actually made.
Yeah. And it humanises the devs a bit more, because video games notoriously they're very smoke and mirrors, because the nature of video games, they have to be. You want to keep it all under wraps for the big launch, similar to where the way movies are. But the difference with the movies, you kind of have all of the deleted scenes, the bloopers, the extras, the how it was made, the vlogs to talk about after, because they're human beings. Whereas once a video game ships, it's usually it's what's on the disc, it's what's in the cloud. The game is the end product. There's no deleted scenes for a video game almost. But dev blogs and diaries, there's some great PlayStation ones out there for God of War and The Last of Us and that I definitely recommend checking out if you're interested in how it's made. But naturally they have to be super secretive, so just checking a few vids when he's literally talking about, he's the villain, I want to change it, and he goes in and you can see him editing it in Unreal, and he adds them in and they don't work out, or the AI ends up going in circles and killing themselves, and there's loads of little quirky bits in the code that it does make you just appreciate the work that goes into genuinely making a video game. So good luck to everyone at Projekt Z, I'm sure, and another title on Stadia is always welcome.
I think there'd be an interesting ideas, how at the moment in football they started doing these behind the scenes documentaries of how a season went for a single team.
Yeah.
You could do something like that for a video game developer. So let's say God of War Ragnarok, if they just had a team recording what was going on, documenting the whole process, what's went well, what hasn't, all that sort of stuff, to pull together as a documentary, like an hour and a half documentary, to be launched like as the game comes out. I'd watch that.
Yeah. Like I said, if you've not checked out I think it's Raising Kratos is the first one. Definitely recommend you check that one out. But moving on, next story, another not zombie tinge game, but a spooky game. Sons of the Forest. Some of you may recognise it's the sequel to The Forest, which came out a few years back. And the only reason we bring it up is it's just been delayed, but more importantly, within the French video game website Video Games Republic reported that saying it's been postponed. However, Sons of the Forest was set to launch on PC, PS5, Series X and Stadia in May, but we're going to have to wait till October now for that delay. And of course that's got everyone over in the Stadia world scrambling, going, ho, that's next gen only it's coming to, and Stadia is in that conversation. Of course, I'm sure as time goes on, Richie, and they stop putting out games for PS4 and Xbox One, that's going to become more and more common that we see Stadia just kind of in line with that branding. But The Forest, for those who don't know, the original game was a survival. It's similar to Ark in a way. Where it was a lone survivor. You crash in a passenger jet. You have to find yourself on a mysterious island or within a forest, I guess, battling to stay alive by building, exploring, crafting, and just all around surviving. But we've not seen too much from Sons of the Forest yet, outside a few trailers. I've not seen that much anywhere. It's been pushed back to October, so we bring it up, of course, because of the Stadia little news drop in there. But what are your thoughts on Sons of the Forest, or the original, if you've played that?
I haven't. I mean, my first real time that this actually came on my radar was this news break. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of survival games. I respect them for what they are. They're just not for me, but it looks so pretty. So if the gameplay and like the atmosphere matches up with the potential I think this could be an amazing game. But one that's probably not for me.
Yeah, it's got some interesting content in the trailer that makes you go like, "Ooh, that's beautiful," and gory and horrible at the same time.
It feels like a quite hardcore survival game where things aren't overly gamified. Like you do have to hunt and eat and stuff and keep on top of stuff like that. By the looks of it. Yeah,
that's where I start to lose my interest a little bit.
Yes, I like games. Gamify it a bit.
Yeah, I want to save my eating in survival for real life.
Yeah,
and I'll play video games to hunt robot dinosaurs as you do. But I'm sure we'll hear some news soon, maybe, perhaps, in this week on Stadia, or next up on Stadia, we should say. Pivoting to some Japanese JRPG news. I threw this one in for you, Richie, not because it's confirmed for Stadia, but purely because I found out on this very show that you're like a massive One Piece fan.
I am, yeah.
And obviously,
I'm a closet One Piece fan.
Closet One Piece fan. And on this show, obviously, you did a first look at the what is it, World Seeker that dropped on Stadia.
World Seeker, yeah.
And they've just announced that they are bringing out One Piece Odyssey, which promises to be a full-blown JRPG experience. And I know, especially this past year, you've had an even deeper dive into JRPGs, checking out the Ys games and dabbling on some other things.
Last year, I did go on a bit of a JRPG binge. I think because last year there wasn't really many games that came out that last year, and went, oh, I need to play that. So I started, and with Stadia bringing a lot of JRPGs over, it gave me a chance. I had that nice platform to explore a bit more, or like a genre that I've always liked.
Yeah,
I just went on a full-on binge.
Yeah, and this when I saw this news article through the week, and my immediate go-to was just like, this is like perfect for you. This is like a franchise you adore mixed with JRPG for the first time, going all in on it.
It could be perfect, but I'm going to be very honest here. Manga, anime, games based on manga and anime, outside the fighting genre, I've usually bring piss poor, to be honest. They're usually just to have that kind of cheap movie tie-in sort of feel to them, where World Seeker was fun, but it wasn't anything really to write home about. It's an absolutely perfectly serviceable game. I think it's like a 7 out of 10 game for me, where it's like, yeah, absolutely fine. But it's not something like you're going to go, oh my god, I need to go out my way to play this.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
So it remains to be seen, and this is made by the developers of Odyssey. Is made by the developers of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl.
I was going to say.
Which isn't a great move, in my opinion. I like them games. They are not good. They're like not great Pokemon games in the slightest. It's not big.
Is that the original or the remake?
The remakes.
Right.
Whether you forget whether you like the originals or not, these games are brutally slow. In a lot of places, like when a wild encounter comes, your character will stop and it'll be like 2-3 seconds before it starts loading. Everything just feels slow and sluggish in that game. As much as I am enjoying them, because I'm a massive Pokemon fan, so for a small studio where I've only known port games and knock it out the park, I'm skeptical.
Okay.
It could be really, really cool.
Well, yeah, the trailer
I know
looks really
the original author of One Piece, Eiichiro Oda, is involved.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always okay. The author's actually involved. That's a tick. That's a big tick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just going to feel like crap filler content. It's going to probably have the quality in the storytelling. But we'll see.
We'll see. It may, of course, just have that magic by including the word Odyssey. It worked for Mario. It worked for Assassin's Creed. That could just be the spark it needs.
It might come. It might land and absolutely knock it out the park, or it might just go, yeah, it's just another anime game.
Well, they're going all in. Apparently, it's going to be really authentic. It's going to be a full-blown JRPG focusing on the world of the... Is it the Straw Hats?
Yeah, they're the pirate crew.
They're the pirate crew. Cool. Not one for me, but of course one maybe for yourself to keep your eyes on. And more importantly, the reason we bring it up on this show, not just because Richie's a big fan, but it is Bandai Namco as well, who are publishing, of course, who have games on Stadia. The reason we don't have a trailer for you is because Bandai Namco copyright strike YouTube channels to the high heavens. So look that one up yourself, everyone.
It's a potent combination of One Piece and Bandai Namco. It's like, we're not giving you the trailer on that. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's a risky thing to put it in, include it in our video. Yeah. And actually, off the back of that, Richie, you dropped a news article in the chat as well about some other Japanese content. Yeah,
so Shueisha, who are the publishers of One Piece, among other things, including things like Dragon Ball, Naruto, Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen. Basically, most of any anime you've heard of in the West, unless you're really into anime, is probably Shueisha. Like, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. They are about to launch a video game publishing development studio. I just thought it was interesting, so we might actually not have to deal with Bandai Namco when it comes to trailers going forward for these sort of games. I think this might be similar to how Disney's doing, where they have their own kind of Disney game studio, the label, which then can license out a way of more managing their IP in the gaming space.
Yeah, you've got this portfolio of content that people love and know through many different channels, and you need someone to kind of just have that overarching thing. And I think having your own dev studio publishers is a good move. It keeps it all together. Yeah,
when you have like the depth of IP that Shueisha have, because in manga, the way typically in the West, like Marvel will bring out a new superhero, they'll do a run, then a couple of years later they'll reboot it, or with manga it tends to be continuous stories. So One Piece has been getting published for 25 years now, and it is a continuous story the entire time.
Do they ever age?
Yeah. Although the story is kind of set, there was a 2-year time slip in the middle, but I think it's kind of set in over a couple of year period.
Okay.
So they don't age massively.
Yeah.
They don't age by 25 years, put it that way.
My only touch point is always Pokemon, when it's Ash is still starting off in Pallet Town. It repeats.
But with the way manga tends to work is you have an independent guy who'll draw a manga, then kind of pitch it to Shueisha, and if they think it'll do well, they'll put it in their weekly magazine. So there's a basic continuous flood of new IP just coming their way.
That's cool. Well, hopefully
that's just how the industry is set up, the manga industry set up.
Well, we'll certainly keep our eyes on that. And hopefully there's a flood of new games on the way as well, because I think we got quite excited last year when Stadia started getting all these JRPGs from a big back catalogue coming through, and we thought, actually, it would be a great place to have them all in the cloud as well, because I know in the past Xbox hasn't done too great on JRPGs. It's not really been the platform for them. It's always been Sony and PlayStation. So I'd love to see Stadia just kind of embrace that part of the gaming landscape and bring as much across and variety as possible.
I mean, if I was Stadia, I'd be having a word with Shueisha and like kind of start developing that relationship. I think Sony have got an inside track on this one, because there is former Sony Sony Interactive Studios in the Japanese arc element of it. I think it's Masami Yamamoto is the former head of the executive development department at SEI Japan.
So you've got those
is now heading this. So
you've got lots of cross-pollination.
He's got a contact book.
Yeah, and I mean Sony fully own Crunchyroll and Funimation now, right? So like all anime is now.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Sony owned them.
Double check that. I'm pretty sure that, because I remember I've listened to loads of stuff where they now say it's all anime is basically under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Type.
Yeah. I am a Crunchyroll member. Yeah, Sony officially owns AT&T's Crunchyroll. All right.
Yeah. So now it's like Sony. Like it's a. I think it was quite a stealth move, but if you're into that type of stuff, like it's all under one place now, which is great for content, but monopoly-wise, that's a whole different conversation. Moving on, though, ladies and gentlemen, let's switch back to some PUBG news. Actually, we mentioned the giant monster chicken earlier on in the April Fool's story, but PUBG actually this last week or so celebrate their 5th anniversary, and they did that with a 2022 roadmap. Reading from yours truly over at Stadia Source, PUBG celebrated its 5th anniversary this week with a chicken dinner's worth of in-game events, special items, and a roadmap. Revealed as the dev plan, the 2022 roadmap is broken into 3 categories and 3 time zones across the remaining quarters of the year ahead. And we got a nice little graphic to go with that, Richie, where they broke down 3 type of platforms. There's world, in-game, and out-game, is how they've titled it. And across each quarter for the rest of the year, they basically told us about new maps coming, weapon balancing, perks, improvements, all like the usual rigmarole stuff that goes on, cosmetics and such. And then overall improvements to things like arcade mode and a bunch more social features as well. There's reboots, or not reboots, actually returns to previous maps. So in the past, when they've tweaked stuff over time, and older players have been like, you've ruined the map. The map used to be really fun. Then I want to go back a little bit and rework it and bring back some of the stuff that people loved. There's a new map titled Kiki, which is going to arrive, which has been dubbed by the developers as the most verticality we've ever built in PUBG, which means it's not necessarily just about running around on the ground. There's going to be different levels of chaos happening within a cityscape and different environments as well. There's another map coming, and Vikendi's going to be looked at again. But overall, just a roadmap. It's nice to see PUBG still doing well. Of course, they went free to play in February, so hopefully they've seen a player spike due to that. They just kind of fit into that Warzone, Fortnite free-to-play world now, which, for better or for worse, they probably could have done a long time ago, but that's where they're at now. There's no going back. Can't start charging for it now.
I'm happy for them. Like, it shows like there's still life in this game, which is good. They're still finding ways to keep the game going, because we wouldn't be having this if the game was dead. So
yeah, certainly true.
Yeah,
and good on them on a roadmap. Nice to see, and I'm always down for a game of PUBG. It's just we don't really get that many games drop. We just play them instead. But I'm sure we'll be back one day, and we'll have to remember how to pick up loot and craft it, and which ammo goes in which gun, all over again.
Our annual return.
Our annual return, indeed. And final story, or one of the final stories of the week, folks, is over at 9 to 5 Google. Apparently, Google. Not Stadia, Google are looking to incorporate all of their cloud streaming games into one place, beginning on Chromebook. So, the story, the crux of this one in the game shell, Richie, there's so many cloud gaming things kicking off at the moment. You've got Game Pass Ultimate through Xbox in the cloud. You've got GeForce Now, which we know. We've got Luna. We've got Google Stadia, of course. Shadow PC, and is it Boosteroid, I think, is one that I've seen a few people talk about as well. And we definitely know that's not going away anytime soon. You've got all of these third-party white labeling things that might come about as well. And just like the streaming world, when you've got so many streaming services now, they need to be utilised somewhere. And you and me both own a new Chromecast with Google TV, right? And I love nothing more than using that as opposed to the old way of doing it. And it just has everything. All my Disney Plus, all my Netflix, all my Amazon shows, they're just on one screen.
I'm actually the reverse. I prefer my Chromecast Ultra because I still just cast from everything from my phone.
Oh, I love the remote. Either way, it condenses it into one place. I don't have to go into the app to find a show. It's just basically all the information is fed to me on one page. It's convenient, it's simplistic, and I definitely prefer it. According to this article, it looks like Google looking to do that with all of the gaming offerings as well. So all of those aforementioned cloud streaming companies will be revamped and put into a kind of home screen for gaming. So if you want to play FIFA 22, perhaps, you click on that and it just boots up Stadia. If you want to play Sonic Mania, click on that. Oh wait, it's not on Stadia, but it'll just boot up Amazon Luna instead. And it's just looking like it's, again, Google just keeping everything in one place. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is taking away from their own platform in Stadia, or do you think Google are just that big they don't really care as long as you're using their Chromecast?
I think this is largely just a bit of housekeeping on their part, to be honest, and it may actually drive more traffic towards cloud gaming in general, which is good for Stadia. But I think you potentially, we've talked about in the past, see like some sort of consolidation in like the premium services Google offer, like almost do like a Google Entertainment bundle where you get like YouTube Premium, you get Stadia and stuff, Stadia Pro, all in a single purchase. I think this might make that more likely, but I don't know. I think it's one of the things we've talked about with Google is sometimes they do treat like every different element of Google as completely separate entities, which I think is kind of, you're not playing your strengths there. I think one of the strengths of Google is they're involved in so much different stuff. So play to your strengths. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing you hit the nail on the head there when you said that any kind of traffic being pushed towards cloud gaming is great for Stadia, because then you will get cases where, yes, all these cloud servers are ran from big data farms in the middle of nowhere, but if you're just an average guy at home on your TV, you just want to play a game, if you click it and it says, oh, this is available on Stadia, there's your shoe in the door for going, oh, I can just play it on my TV. Awesome. Or if it is to Luna or something, you know what I mean? It opens the library up to people who might be looking for one game, but they can't find it. But, oh, what do you know? It's actually available on Stadia instead.
Well, there's this thing where gaming is often like thought of completely separate to like TVs, movies and things, where it's not really, because in terms of every company is like fighting for is people's time. They're like free time, like, and the easier it is to get people into games, which cloud gaming does completely remove a massive hurdle in terms of expensive hardware, it might turn more people onto games. Like, how many people game on the mobiles every single day, but wouldn't even consider buying a console because of the cost of it? And it's like, but if you got this service that actually they do the searching for, take Sonic for example, new Sonic movies out, and then I can play Sonic just here.
Yeah.
Oh, I can use my phone as a controller. It's like, oh, well, this is fine, but actually, why don't I just buy a controller?
Yeah, right next to it.
And then you're in. Stuff like that, I think, could be like really strong for them.
Yeah, we've said that's when that's what was so ironic, is when Chromecasts with Google TV launched without Stadia on it. It was almost like you just shot yourself in the foot again. But now it's there, and it's just kind of just part of the furniture. No one thinks or talks about it. The more integration, the better. More accessibility. And Google have always been about that. Just look at the search engine and stuff. It's all about finding information, helping out. Google Maps and stuff. It's free. I'm still shocked to this day that Google Maps is a free service. Like, it's so detailed and it works so well. Yeah. And yet it's just free. So
Google are a data company. So
yeah, exactly. They just want everything.
Every time you use Google Maps, they get a bit more data.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Nom. Eat up all that data. But that's all we have time for this week on episode 132 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast.
There's one thing I think we should mention very, very quick, and that's Dawn of the Monsters. They've had the rating change, the PEGI rating change from 12 to 16. Apparently refunds are available if this does affect you. So changed. if you have an account that is like flagged as below 13, below 15 or below in like a PEGI area, the game will be unplayable for you now.
Has that ever happened before?
Because I've never heard of this before in the video game industry. I've never heard of a PEGI rating getting changed.
What makes it a 16? There's no like
I haven't got a clue.
decapitations or anything of human. It's usually only when humans are getting hurt that's the problem, isn't it?
I haven't got a clue. I could see how an update to the game with new content could change the rating of it.
Yeah.
But I really don't know I just know I got an email about this.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, all right.
So you can get a refund then? Even though you didn't buy it, it was on
the
Pro.
Actually, I haven't tried. Like I got it Stadia Pro, so I probably can't get a refund. Unfortunately, games that are claimed through Stadia Pro aren't eligible. So if you got this game through Stadia Pro, you don't get a refund. But if you bought the game and you no longer have access because of the nature of your account, then you can.
Wow. Okay. So PEGI 16, Dawn of the Monsters going R-rated all of a sudden. And that is our last news story for the day. Episode 132 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, right here on Helix Cloud Games. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in, watched along, and of course all of the people out there who've liked, subscribed, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of our future content that we do, because we've got a lot of live streams lined up. We've got exciting first looks at Deliver Us the Moon when it finally arrives out of orbit. We've also got one lined up for World War Z Aftermath when that finally drops. We might have the predicament now, Richie, where we're going to have to do either make a decision on which one we'd rather do first or just do another one back to back depending on the date it drops. But you need to keep liked, subscribed and tuned so you're available.
We could just run a community poll on it.
We could let you decide
for our YouTube channel.
Or we could let
you decide.
Let our members decide, Richie. Just like MJ Parks, our newest Helix Hero, who gets access to SideQuest up to 6 days early the day we record it. Richie, tell the lovely people what we'll be talking about on this week's topical side adventure of gaming.
So this week we are going to be delving into Sony. We have details now of Projekt Spartacus, and we are Cloud Gaming Podcast after all, so we're going to be breaking down Spartacus.
That's right. Yeah, there's a big part of Spartacus which is now added emphasis on cloud gaming with a potentially very, very large library. So things are heating up in the cloud gaming space. We've said it from day one when Stadia launched. We've got Luna now out in the United States, still waiting on them coming to Europe. But PlayStation, again, they've been a bit slow, but they're making some changes. So we're going to go and talk about all of that over on SideQuest episode number 61, I think it is.
61, yeah.
61 will be in the bag soon and available for our lovely Helix heroes out there. Not only do you get that early, you also get stickers, badges next to your name, exclusive early access and extra content. Just for following along and subscribing. But that's all it is for this week's show. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you want to keep tabs on me, I am at CyberChris2077. If you want to keep tabs on Richie, you go to
at RichieC89.
Tom is at AdaxisLP, and I am at, already said, the channel is at at Helix Cloud Games. I mean, I am at Helix Cloud Games as well. But that's not the point. Thanks everyone for tuning in, watching, and remember to play whatever makes you the happiest. We'll see you next week. Have a good one and happy gaming. Goodbye.